Live in the charge, ready to rock. All right. Well, we're getting going. We got some people watching. Those are jumping on. Welcome, guys. Welcome to our first leadership stream. Glad you're with us. My name's Jared. That handsome guy up there is Mark. What's up, Dave Hertweck?
Hey.
I'm excited to chat with you later. Mark, how you doing, man? How's it going?
We're doing good. We're doing really well. I've done a lot of projects around the house. As you can see, this used to be a ranch.
Yeah,
and
wow.
Now it's a studio apartment in New York City. So
you're really living the good life. We were commenting how that's like just the sitting room. I noticed your bed in the background there.
Yeah. So Mel loves to read a book. When the light comes in the windows over here, it's just it's a precious moment.
Man, you are living your best life. That's for sure. For sure. Hey, everybody, welcome. If you're just jumping on the stream, welcome. Glad to see you.
Hey, my sister's watching.
We're excited to have you guys with us. We're going to have a great time today. We've got some awesome leaders coming on, and we're going to hang out. We also have, Mark has prepared a wonderful list of incredible, embarrassing questions to ask these guys. And so we're going to find out not just some great leadership lessons, Mark, right? But we're going to find out some really important things, like what's their favorite cereal?
Exactly. I mean, these are questions that America needs to have answers to.
Yeah.
And worldwide.
Yeah. More than America.
Yeah.
So Mark, before we, I know you and I are going to chat a little bit. If anyone has questions, guys, as you're watching, feel free to type them in the chat. We're a little delayed, but we want to interact. We want to answer your questions. And also, when we have our guests on, who Mark will introduce to you guys a little bit, who we have coming on today, you can ask questions of them, and we'd love to get them to interact with you live and kind of answer what you guys are wanting to ask. So, Mark, who do we have coming on today? Just share with us if anyone doesn't know.
Yeah, so we're really excited that today we've got Heath Adamson, who is Chief of Staff for Convoy of Hope. He was the former youth National Youth Director. He's going to be spending some time with us up first, and then Josh Wellborn, who is the National Youth Director currently for the Assemblies of God, is going to be coming in and joining us. And then lastly, David Hertweck is going to be joining us. He's a local pastor here in Syracuse, New York, and was a youth pastor for many, many years. All three of these guys are some of the smartest people I know, present company excluded, and so we're really looking forward to having the opportunity to hear from them and get a chance to pick their brains a little bit, find out a little more about them, and it should be an awesome lineup.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We've got Heath Adamson coming on first at 3:20. Followed by Josh and then David. And then we've also got some other leaders, some little surprise bonus leaders coming at the end, which will also be cool. And so before we jump into having Heath come on in about 20 minutes, I thought, Mark, we'd chat a little bit just kind of about the state of youth ministry right now with everything going on. We're all affected. Obviously, I'm home. You're home in your Manhattan apartment there. It's been a crazy time for everybody, and especially the church. This is really unprecedented for everybody who's living through it and trying to figure it out. And I know you were a youth pastor for many years, as was I, and now I get to work with a lot of different youth pastors and youth ministries. And I'd love to hear, what are kind of some of your thoughts just about what youth ministry or ministry in general looks like right now in the midst of this craziness?
Yeah, I think one of the things that rings the loudest to me and my interactions with youth leaders across the state, or even just youth from around the state, is, their world, everyone's world has been disrupted, right? We all recognize that, but their ability to cope with that disruption is significantly different, I think, than the average adult. And so, the idea that they're being isolated from the physical presence of their friends, even though they may have social interaction via digital media, the lack of just face-to-face, the lack of personal touch. I'm actually really curious to see on the other side of this how that affects social media, and if people aren't almost getting a little sick of it to some degree. But one of the things that I'm recognizing is just the personal care that is being needed in just relational connection with teenagers and students. You know, obviously our poor seniors are the ones getting probably rocked the most during this, because all of their last everythings are getting shut down and shut down and shut down. And I think at this point their expectations are so low, just for what could be or what's coming up. Super sad, obviously, for them. And then just in general, just I think the need that people have to be around people that aren't their parents or their annoying siblings is really being felt at this time. And so the personal, emotional, even spiritual care that is given to personal attention with those students, I think is going to be really, really important, and should have already, but if not, is really going to be important moving forward. And depending on what announcements are going to be coming out from our government officials over the next couple of weeks about whether New York schools are going to be shutting down completely or not, that's just going to be another like that's going to hit. So trying to cash in as much of that relational equity as you can now is going to be huge in just continuing the pace with students. Your hardcore kids have probably been all in on your Zoom calls and your small groups online and all that kind of stuff, but I guarantee you there's a significant percentage of students who are either going to tire out or who have not yet connected, and it's going to be really important to be aware of how they're emotionally handling this transition.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a crazy time, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the world responds. Like, I'm not convinced that people are going to bounce back so easily and quickly and jump right back into large gatherings and all of that stuff. I have a feeling like this is going to affect the culture of the world, and especially of the United States, and people's willingness to gather in large groups is going to, like, I feel like there's going to be a hesitancy, you know, and how people want to be together. But at the same time, like you said, there may be a real longing for the reality that, like, we can all connect like this. And some of us, like, I don't know if you're like me, leave a comment down below. Like, how many of you are sick of Zoom meetings, right? Like, put a hand raised down in the comments. Let us know, are you sick of Zoom meetings? But so we all know, like, you can connect over that stuff, but it's not the same. So I do wonder, like, is there going to be this kind of deeper longing to be face to face, to like actually hug somebody, to be around a smaller group of people and have a meal and hang out that's different than like you said, your family or your siblings or whatever. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how the church adjusts to the culture that is created because of this pandemic.
Yeah. My biggest concerns, quite honestly, is for those who are already kind of feeling thin emotionally. Just be aware as a leader of those students who probably in the past were struggling with some depression issues, probably struggling with the feeling of not being connected to begin with. And really, I would really encourage you to target those students as some personal connections, phone call, even, you know, drive up to the house and say hi from a distance, kind of a thing. I really feel like those personal connections are going to be really important in the long-term emotional, social health of students who are already probably really, really struggling. And my guess is whose home situations only tend to compound that situation. I just remember when I was teaching before going into youth ministry full-time, man, students who had tough home situations, long breaks, when they came back from long breaks, it was like you had to unpack so much. I can only imagine what a lot of them are going through right now.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. What have you been learning about yourself in this time, about your relationship with God? Like, has there been any kind of profound moments that have popped out and shown through for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've recognized that getting a break from my kids make me love my kids more. Is that terrible to say? This is being recorded, right?
That's terrible, Mark. Honestly.
Oh, you know, I'm a socially wired person. I'm an extrovert to the nth degree, and so you would think just being around my family, my kids all the time would feed that, but it's not necessarily always the case. You know, really trying to flex my patience and recognizing, I'm so thankful for my wife who reminds me constantly, our kids are in crisis mode as much as we are, and they don't have the ability to handle it the same way that we can cope and handle it. And so if I'm losing it, how much that much more that they are. And so just as a dad, really trying to keep that filter through every cry, every fight, every whine, every tension that we've got, is trying to be filtered through this idea of this is a totally new experience for them, and trying to help them navigate. And it's not the same as, you know, summer break or something like that. At summer break, we're allowed to go to the park, and we're allowed to run around, and you're allowed to have play dates, and you're allowed to connect with different people. And so it's not the same thing. And even, you know, even the whole nature of the homeschooling piece that we're going through right now, that this is not even typical homeschooling. So to think, oh, this is what, you know, homeschooling is like for those that choose to do that full time with their students, it's totally not the same thing. It's not comparable. And so, you know, recognizing this is honestly just a survival period, whether it be through education or just through the social piece of things.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been learning, and I'd be interested to hear, like, if you guys are watching, leave a comment, let us know if this is kind of where you're at, or maybe let us know, hey, one of the things that you've learned during this time. But one of the things I think is interesting is just because you're home more doesn't immediately mean that you have more intimacy with God.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized, like, I felt like God was showing me, like, if you have excuses when life is crazy about why you don't have time and all that kind of stuff to spend with Jesus, when your life slows down and kind of like everything gets quieter, you actually realize, oh, maybe those excuses weren't legit. Maybe it was just my own heart and me. And so I feel like God's been showing me some of those things, like the excuses that I made and were not legit, and that the things that I do in normalcy will carry over till now, and sometimes even get worse. And then the same stuff, the good things that I do will carry over and get better in times like this. And so I feel like God's just been showing me some different stuff in my own heart, my own life, as far as like, hey, now's the time to look at this stuff and really work through this and draw closer to me. So I've been enjoying that. And I know Heath's going to talk a little bit about that when he jumps on in a few minutes.
Yeah, that's good. I think you can easily trick yourself into thinking you've got so much more time than you normally do. So you're like, okay, I won't get up super early to do that portion of my routine, or I'll take care of it this afternoon when my meetings are done or when things slow down. And then you realize, oh my gosh, it's 8 o'clock in the evening already, and the day has just disappeared. And one of the things that my wife and I keep saying to each other, every day feels like a week, and every week feels like a day. It's a bizarre time warp that takes place. Sometimes the days feel so long, and then they're done, and then the week is like, holy moly, it's already Thursday or Friday. And
yeah. Someone's like, what day is it? Friday? I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Hey guys, if you're just tuning in to the stream, thanks for joining us. We're excited you're here. This is our first time doing a leadership live stream. In a couple moments, we're going to have Heath Adamson join us. If you've got a question for him, in fact, if you've got a question for him, we've got Josh Wellborn coming on after him, and then David Hertweck coming on after him. If you've got a question for any of those guys, leave it down in the comments. We want to get to some of your questions. So you can start leaving them now if you'd love us to hit a topic with them. It can be something silly or it can be something serious. Mark prefers the silly, so we'll have a few of those, but feel free. We'd love to see your questions so that when they jump on, we can go ahead and tackle those. And we're excited. We're excited to be talking leadership, to be hanging out with you guys, and taking a little break from. Well, no, it's not really a break. This is what we've all been doing for for the entire coronavirus, is being on our computers on Zoom calls, right, Mark?
Yep. Yeah. But we're gonna come out of this, and our eyeballs will be all bloodshot, and we'll be like, what is happening in the world around us?
Yes, exactly. So, all right. So, Mark, I'm interested to hear from you before we got a couple minutes here before Heath. What are you kind of, is there like a question that you have in mind or something that you are looking forward to asking one of the guys on the call today?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are, their perspective, I think, just given their positions, not necessarily globally, but even just from a countrywide perspective, I think is going to be kind of interesting to hear, because obviously we're here in New York and we're getting all of the New York information, and sometimes it's tough to know what is really happening. I feel like sometimes out of New York, because all of our media streams are kind of filtering things through New York lenses. So I think it might be interesting to hear some of what the rest of the country is experiencing as it relates to their what they're doing in ministry, what they're doing in youth ministry, and even just what their communities are experiencing as it relates to just the current temperature of things.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right.
Wow.
Hey, we got our man, Heath Adamson.
Heath is someplace cool.
I'm on a lawn chair in front of my garage.
Nice. I was hoping that was a horse stable back there.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
We figured that was a virtual background. We didn't realize you were actually cool enough to have that be a legit background, man.
Okay, so here's the deal. It is a virtual background. I'm actually on the beach. And yeah.
Oh, Heath, well, thanks for being with us. We're so thankful for you to jump on.
Thank you.
Jump on the stream and share a little bit. If you guys don't know who Heath Adamson is, I should say Dr. Heath Adamson. And
I'm finished. I'm free.
Yeah. Recently finished your PhD, and excited for you. But we're excited to have Heath with us, and Heath has long time been involved in youth ministry as a youth pastor. He was a Youth Alive missionary working with churches and schools. He was the district youth director, and then served as a national youth director, and then is now currently serving as the chief of staff for Convoy of Hope, which I think most of our viewers know what Convoy does and is thankful and participates with them, and is also the author of several books, and recently the author of a new book, a new release. And so Heath, thanks for being with us, man. Appreciate you being on. And we want to start off by tell us a little bit, for those who don't know, you've got a beautiful family. Tell us a little bit about your family and where you live. And
okay, Jared, Mark, again, and everybody, thanks for letting me be with you. So the most important part of my life is my family. And hey, listen, full disclaimer, COVID-19 is a crazy season. There are a lot of people who are really struggling for many, many reasons, but I have to tell you, one of the blessings has just been being home around my family. I haven't been home this long since 2005. And so I've been married to Allie for a little over 20 years, and we have two girls. Both of them actually are university students now. So our girls still live at home, and we live in southern Missouri, in Springfield, Missouri. And man, I have to tell you, my favorite thing to do is to sit at my dining room table with Allie and the girls and have a meal. And we've done that quite a bit lately. And I've tested out my Traeger pellet grill. So I don't know if that passes the Hertweck foodie test, but I have been smoking some meats.
Okay.
And
right.
Experimenting with burn ends. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Man, that sounds tasty. Well, we may bring Hertweck on here just to kind of evaluate your performance in the smoked meat, area. Hey, real quick, give us 30-second, a minute kind of overview of this recent book that you've written. I know I'm excited. I've not read it yet, but I am going to be ordering it just because I know the topic is something that feels really necessary and important today. So give us a little overview.
Yeah, thank you. The book is entitled The Sacred Chase, and the premise of the book is taken from that inconspicuous passage that, for the sake of this conversation, I'll just say Mark chapter 5. Obviously, it's elsewhere. But in Mark chapter 5, an individual who really had a lot of challenges. The Bible tells us this man is demonized. This man is a self-mutilator. One of the other gospels basically tells us this man was so tormented and messed up, if I could say it that way, he didn't even wear clothing. So here's this individual who does not wear clothing. He screams all of the time, day and night, the text says. He's tormented by evil spirits. He's a self-mutilator. He had thousands of voices, if I could say it that way, distracting him. The Bible tells us that after Jesus and some of his disciples are blown to the shore of Gadara because of a storm of all things, that individual who does not even remember his name, he calls himself Legion, for we are many, he says, but that individual sees Jesus in the distance, and his first thought is not, there's no way I can approach Jesus like this. His first thought is not, I better clean myself up and then maybe Jesus will accept me. His first thought is not to listen to one of the many voices and one of the many excuses he could have been seduced by, but instead the Bible says he runs towards Jesus. And the whole point is, after investing about 5 years to study this one passage off and on, the whole point is, if this gentleman can ignore thousands of excuses, many of them legitimate, to be candid, to pursue a deeper connection with Jesus, how much more can we? So at the end of the day, we are all as close to Jesus as we want to be. And the book is all about moving from proximity to Jesus instead of viewing salvation as a finish line. And listen, thank God for salvation. Thank God for eternal life in heaven. But we also know that salvation is a door. And once we walk through the door of salvation through Jesus, the gospel impacts the way we live today. It's not just about where we go after we die. It impacts our today. So moving from proximity to Jesus and transitioning to intimacy with Jesus, that's the sacred chase. It's not striving. I want to be clear. The chase is not striving. It is not performance, for God does not bless who we pretend to be. God does not bless who people perceive us to be. It is not striving. It is not trying to earn God's favor. We know we're saved by grace, not works. But we also know we cannot use God's sovereignty as an excuse to tolerate the very things Jesus died to set us free from. We have a role to play.
That's good. That's good. As you take what you have been studying over the last couple of years in preparation for this book, and you take a look at kind of the disruption of our typical routines right now for most people, are there any suggestions or anything that you have tried in I don't know if changing up the routine is the right term, or anything that you just have used maybe this extended time that you may not have had in the past to go after and pursue God, do something different devotionally, anything that you have experienced or gone through that might be helpful for us to think through?
Yeah, at the very beginning of the whole COVID-19 shelter in place, and I think, man, off the top of my head, maybe this is the 7th week going on working from home. I immediately thought, okay, I have an additional 50 minutes a day. I'm no longer driving to and from the office. So I've just kind of postured my heart. Psalms 90 verse 12 says, teach us, O Lord, to number our days. Numbering your days is very much about assigning meaning to them, assigning purpose to them. The Bible tells us each one of our days before they came to be, God wrote them down himself in a book. So it's all about unearthing the purpose and the meaning that God has for our days and partnering with God in that space. So we don't spend time, we invest it. And so, I'm really leery to make sure that the additional 50 minutes I have, plus I'm no longer traveling. So I haven't been on an airplane for about 8 weeks, which again is I have not traveled for 8 weeks since 2005. Wow. So I'm real cautious about sitting in front of the TV too much, binging on programs. So no, instead I'm devoting time to reading scripture, not just doing what I always did, trying to sneak in a little bit more, spending time with God in prayer, more than just usual, folding into the fabric and rhythm of my life the very spiritual disciplines that allow us to produce a spiritual ROI in the future by being present today. But numbering our days does not come natural. That's why the psalmist prays, teach me, O Lord, to number my days. It requires intentionality. One of the prayers I have, to be candid with you, Mark, is once we get on the other side of COVID-19, is that the essence of the good old-fashioned time-worn spiritual disciplines of not just reading the Bible, but studying the Bible, praying, being present with Jesus, that people will realize you can't just rely on a Sunday morning to produce what you need. You can't just rely on a life group or a small group, but no, it must be in our homes. We must be intentional to fold into the fabric of our life the very things that allow us to inherit the kingdom in a tangible way. So I'm trying to be very intentional to number my days. That's what I'm doing.
That's good. As a dad, how are you communicating that to your kids? Which are adult, your children are adult children, right? For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, they are. A couple things. As a family, we studied the book of Esther and we studied the book of Nehemiah. So those are two books we've studied during the shelter in place. We just sat down, read, and just kind of opened up. Some of those conversations were just fantastic. You know, as a family, we really don't watch a ton of TV. We really don't binge on a lot of TV. One of the things we decided to do was get a puppy. And so one of the things we're doing is after dinner, we're going on family walks. We're trying to train the puppy together. We will just sit on our floor. We're having conversation as a family. So we've just been very intentional to make sure that this time doesn't just go by. Now, I'm not saying it's been perfect, but we've been very intentional to really try to steward our days just like we would our finances.
I love that. I love that, Heath. And I love the topic of your book. And I think it's really timely and really important. And as we dive back into reality slowly, or what used to feel like reality, I think it's going to be even more important and more timely. And I'm looking forward to, we're going to post at the end of this on all of our stuff, we're going to post where you can get Heath's book. One more time, Heath, if you just want to share, I know you've got some social media stuff and some other things. Where's the best way for people to find you, and if they're interested in hearing some of your stuff? And
just go to heathadamson.com. That's my website. From time to time, I post free stuff there. I know we all like free stuff. So actually the YouVersion reading plan for the Sacred Chase has been very well received. A lot of youth ministries actually all over the country are doing that. I've been doing quite a few videos for youth ministries who have decided to do that. If I'm available, I'm happy to do that. I don't need to be paid for that. So there's a free study guide. So go to heathadamson.com. And I'm really not a big Facebook guy. But if you want to connect on the Twitter or Instagram, it's at Heath Adamson.
Now, with all this walking you've been doing, Heath, you must be in really good shape right now. So one of the questions we want to know is, in a fight, do you think who would win, you or David Hertweck? And as you answer, let's just go ahead and bring in David Hertweck.
Okay. So who would win? Well, it depends on how much time I had. Because I've been in David's house before. I've tasted the homemade kimchi. I've had steak sliced paper thin. So I have a feeling David could pin me against a wall with a butcher knife. And because of that, I think he would win the fight. However, if I had maybe a running start, because I do run consistently, I believe I could run far enough to cause David to be so frustrated and he would give up. And then I would have to become a ninja, camouflage myself, and do a sneak attack. That would be my plan.
That's good.
David, any response to that? It sounds like he's really calling you out here.
That's very perceptive. If the truth is that if you can run far enough out of the reach of my knife, I'm not going to chase you. As much as you like running, I hate running. I don't know why. I thought we were all supposed to wear masks to this meeting. What's going on?
Yeah, no one's told David you don't actually need the mask when you're on a video call, but yeah, we know you guys are great friends. And so one of the things that Dave and I do in our podcast, and Heath, you know, you've been on there before, is a thing called David's Eats. So Mark has a couple of kind of hot seat questions about food before we let you go, Heath, that the people want to know. I mean, that's just the reality, is the world is asking. You've not told them the truth about some of your the things you love. And so Mark says we got to give the people what they want. So Mark, go ahead, give him a little. I believe he has to choose between two things. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this will go really badly if you don't eat cereal. Have you currently, or do you ever eat cereal?
Yes, I'm a cereal consumer.
Awesome. Fantastic. So I'm going to give you two choices, and I want you to tell me which one if I gave you 2 bowls of these cereals, which one are you picking? Okay. We're going to start easy. It's going to get harder.
Okay.
You got a bowl of regular Cheerios, not Honey Nut, regular Cheerios or Corn Flakes, not Frosted Flakes, regular Corn Flakes. Which one are you going for?
Cheerios.
Okay. Cheerios or Raisin Bran?
Cheerios.
Cheerios or Captain Crunch?
Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch or Apple Jacks?
Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch or Honey Smacks?
Captain Crunch.
All right. Captain Crunch or Fruity Pebbles?
Captain Crunch.
Wow.
Ooh. Are these berry Captain Crunch or just regular punch you in the roof of your mouth Captain Crunch plain?
Punch you in the roof of your mouth. You can only eat it once a month because of the scar tissue, Captain Crunch.
All right. We're going to keep going. I'm going to see if I can find one that tops Captain Crunch for you. How about Cocoa Puffs or Captain Crunch?
That's hard because you can drink the milk after Cocoa Puffs and you have a free cup or a free bowl of chocolate milk. But I'm sticking with the Captain.
All right. How about Captain Crunch or Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Nice.
Especially when it gets soggy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, man. I'm about 3 scoops into a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and as soon as the milk invades it, I'm like, oh, this is ruined.
Cinnamon Toast needs a little more Captain Crunch in it, if you ask me. a little more backbone.
Yeah, it soggies up so quick.
It does, but I like it, especially with a couple pieces of rye toast.
Wow, cereal with toast.
I'm telling you, that's good eats right there, gentlemen.
Okay, well, we'll have to take your word for that.
Is that your favorite then? Is Cinnamon Toast Crunch soggy your fave?
No, so my favorite cereal would be Frosted Shredded Wheat.
Oh, it was on here. It was totally on here, and I skipped it.
That's my favorite. Yeah, it is.
That's a good one. Now that's one I can eat soggy.
Yeah, I like it, but it's purely the taste is a good factor, but it's also health. We all know once you turn 40, you need to add fiber.
There you go.
Wisdom.
Double win.
Just oozing out of you wisdom.
Heath, thanks so much for being with us. I know, David, you're going to jump back on a little bit as well, but we appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much. And if you have not read his book, go out and grab it. Grab his other ones as well. You can go to heathadamson.com to find all that information. Thanks, Heath.
Thank you. Let's eat a dog again in New York one day.
Sounds
hot
good,
dog,
man.
That is.
It's
hot dog,
me.
that is.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Hey, we're excited. We've got our next guest, who's going to be jumping on here in just a second. Josh Wellborn is making his way on.
Hey.
There he is. What's up, Josh?
He's muted. You'd think by his 800th Zoom call he would unmute.
He is muted.
And I did what I tell everybody not to do.
There it is. Yeah, Mark's like, come on, man, 800 Zoom calls, but it happens.
I know, and I keep telling people not to talk without the mute, but whatever. You get it. You know what I just did. You know what I've been doing.
Yep.
It happens.
You understand?
I understand.
Do you understand having 4 kids doing online schooling in your house?
Dude, I've got 2, but Mark understands the 4.
I tell you what, show me the leader that is telling parents how to stay sane with kids who care nothing about their educational future, and I will subscribe to that.
Well, we actually brought you on to do that today, so this is Hey, if you don't,
good to see your faces.
Yeah, you too, man. If you guys are watching, we're streaming right now, Josh, live. So if you don't know who Josh Wellborn is, he's our National Youth Director for the Assemblies of God, and before that, served as the role that I serve in as a youth director for the state of Michigan, and he was a longtime youth pastor, and we're so grateful to have him jump on here for a few minutes and give us his time. And if you've got a question for him as you're watching, feel free to go ahead and type it in the chat. We'll try to get to it and ask him a question. if we have the time. But Josh, thanks for being on, man. We're excited to hear from you. And we kind of wanted to start off and just get your take on kind of a 30,000 foot view in the air of youth ministry right now in our country, given what's happening, what's taking place. You know, Mark and I are both in New York, but you're interacting with leaders and youth ministries from all over the country. We'd love to get your take on kind of what life is like right now for youth pastors and youth ministries.
Well, I think we've all been very impressed and very proud of youth pastors and lead pastors, just the church in general during this time. They were out in front. It was the church that we saw going live. I still haven't seen politically or socially motivated groups doing what the church is doing, which is exciting. We should be setting the pace and setting the tone. So that's what I'm seeing from the top. And I think the groups that are still out in front are the groups that are planning for the return to whatever the new normal is. And they're realizing that things are going to have to be re-engineered, that some things have changed that are never going to be the same again. And I think a lot of youth workers have learned some lessons during this time that you can't unlearn. And we can unpack that more, but and I know I'm speaking maybe in vague terms, Jared. I can unpack any of those, but those are some pretty big pieces that I've noticed here recently.
Yeah, I would say speaking to either or both of those options would be good. I know one of the things that we were starting to talk about is what are some of the things that will change the face of our ministries and our churches at large moving forward, things that we want to keep from this season and things that we need to know that we need to change because of the season we've come through.
Well, all of us who have I've spent my entire adult life, as have you guys, in youth ministry and primarily working at churches. And I'm realizing that the call to ministry is so much bigger than being someone who maintains a venue for people to come and congregate, worship, be discipled, etc. So, that was just the obvious one. We're going to continue ministry. We're going to build relationship from a distance. We're going to continue to disciple and empower students. And I think the biggest thing that I'm wanting to see from the national level, and I know that you guys, your hearts are going to bear witness with this statement, is that I want to see students doing what our pastors have done. They have embraced this platform, and we all know this. For the students, this platform, whether it's Facebook or Zoom or Twitch or Discord or Mixer or TikTok, this is like their native language. This is where they're comfortable. We call them digital natives for a reason. And so we got to be very careful, because leaders, we've really jumped into the spotlight. Now we're all like professional Zoomers and we're all getting better at talking on camera. But man, I want to see students taking advantage of this platform the way leaders in the church have. And I think it's the next challenge for our students.
Yeah, I love that, Josh. I think you're so right. And could you share a couple examples of how you've seen students rise to the occasion already, leadership wise? Like, I know you've heard a lot of stories, and it'd be cool to kind of inspire, maybe if we've got some youth pastors or senior pastors watching, to go, here's some ways that students are taking a leadership role in this time.
Well, one of the things we love about youth ministry and that I love about youth culture is that we can challenge students to do almost anything and they'll do it. And we see that at youth camp when we ask them to do something silly or something crazy. And certainly the students that, we get real tight with, and we get in, I think of the young men that I've kind of walked through their dating, their courtship, their engagement. And it's like, man, you challenge them and they embrace that challenge. And so it's almost too easy to just challenge a student to live their faith out loud on social media or on the digital space. So here's the real challenge. Like good old-fashioned discipleship, and then I'll give you an example because you asked for an example. Good old-fashioned discipleship to where we ask a kid to have a life-changing encounter with Jesus that translates into an overflow in the digital space. And I'll give you an example, and I'm going to sound like a proud, gushing dad, and I am. And he can't hear me right now, otherwise he'd be so embarrassed. But my 16-year-old son, and this is a kid that we've been praying, my wife and I have been praying for a breakthrough for a long time. Not that he was bogged down with anything. We just didn't want to challenge him and have him accept a challenge. We wanted God to change him and then to see it overflow. The last Wednesday night that our church was able to meet, I was out of town speaking somewhere, but my wife was sending me pictures because he was down on the altar. And that was one of the first times we'd seen that in him on a Wednesday night. We've seen it at camp, we've seen it at youth convention, but seeing him on a Wednesday night being challenged by his youth pastor who had reached out to him relationally and said, hey, I want you to be one of the student leaders. This is all new. Like this is like, he's a sophomore, and getting engaged to the core was new. Now you say, well, you're the national youth director. Why wasn't your son engaged in the core before? Man, I had him there. I was waiting for a leader to connect him and bring him into the core. And so it happened. And this is what he did, Jared. He made $1,000 faith promise for Speed the Light. And I know that there are many ways to measure a student's growth. And this is just one of them. But he made $1,000 faith promise. They're doing a World Serve project to get clean water to kids. And so this kid in my house, in my basement, has been online streaming on Mixer, which is the Microsoft version of Twitch, for those who aren't familiar. He raised not only $1,000 for his Speed the Light faith promise, but God blessed him above and beyond that he was able to reinvest about $1,200 into his online business now. So here's a kid who said, man, God did something in my life. I've got to do something. No one said, Isaac, go raise $1,000 online. No one said it. They just said, do something. Listen to the Holy Spirit. What's God telling you to do? Now, the real challenge, again, this is an example of my own house, and you probably wanted examples from a local youth ministry.
Oh, great.
But this one's fresh. Like he just sent the money the other day and sent a screen grab to ask me if he did it right. And I'm like, he actually did it.
Yeah.
And those who are watching that are parents who have a strong-willed kid, this is a strong-willed kid. Like if I'd said, you do this, he might have done the exact opposite just because it was my idea.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a kid who's saying, I want to do something out of a heart of compassion, clean water. I want to do something out of a desire to spread the gospel, speed the light. And here, how can I do that? Well, and here's the other thing. He didn't make money before. He made some, but it's always been his goal to build that as a business, but it really took root when he allowed the Holy Spirit to lead him. Anyway, that's maybe a big chunk example to bite off from, but even just students sharing faith statements that are truly from somewhere transformative are so encouraging to me, because Psalm 96, it's the Gen Z verse that we've all been quoting. It says, publish his glorious deeds among the nations, make known the wonderful things that he does. This is the publishing generation. And
yeah,
we just have to have a transforming experience in their lives, and then it'll be real. Because if we tell them to wear WWJD bracelets, or to wear a t-shirt that says life instead of Nike, or reborn instead of Reebok, those are things that my generation did. They'll do it, but man, I want to see the Holy Spirit transform kids and them do the new things. But I'm talking too much.
I love that, man. No, thanks. We've got a couple fun questions to ask you before we get Dave Hertweck to jump on. And we actually just had Heath Adamson on before you, and we asked him a question that I'd love to have you weigh in on, which is, who would win in a fight, Heath Adamson or David Hertweck?
Oh my goodness. I mean, pound for pound, like that's got to be a Hertweck win. But I don't. The thing with Heath is, don't ever sell Heath Adamson short. He's smarter than you realize he is. He's cooler than you realize he is.
That's true.
I bet he's more agile than we realize.
And I feel like Heath always carries a large Bowie knife on him at all times.
He's kind of got that Peter Parker look, but I bet he's already been bit by that radioactive spider. He's just like shredded out of his mind underneath.
Yeah.
Underneath
he seems like someone who would have a ridiculously high pain threshold too. I don't know why.
All right. Well, we're about to bring Hertweck back on and tell him what you just said about him, Josh. But as he jumps on, because he's showing us his sky right now, Mark has a little cereal question for you. We've been doing a little cereal trivia. So before you go, we got to hear a little some of your favorite cereal choices. The people need to know this. So
my favorite cereal choices or David's?
No, yours.
Yours.
Go ahead, Mark. Mark will ask you.
Yeah. So last night it was Frosted Flakes, but also we got a hold of some Lucky Charms. We haven't been able to get those in our Instacart order yet as often, but when Lucky Charms show up here, they're gone within 24 hours. And then right now we've got the family Sam's Club style of Frosted Flakes.
Nice. Do you add sugar to the Frosted Flakes, just out of curiosity?
Oh my goodness. That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
No, I don't. But
All right, so
David,
all right, that's good. That's good. I'm happy for your heart. I'm really happy for your heart there. Hey, instead of the cereal question, because you just gave us your faves anyways, let me ask you this question, all right? So if you could create an Olympic event that you think you have a legitimate shot at winning, and it can be anything, but it's going to be, the whole world is going to be competing against it, what event would it be that you would have the chance of winning?
I'm going to show you. Keep watching.
Oh,
I'm going to show you. Just like,
it's going to be amazing.
second. This is like my only like physical talent. All my other talents are just spiritual.
Whoa, plate
Plate
spinner.
spinner.
And he went right for the ceramic plate. He wasn't messing
Oh
around.
yeah. This makes people in buffet lines so nervous.
Is that your wedding china?
It 100% is. We got this for our wedding. It's Denby.
You know you're confident when you spin your wedding china.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That's a whole nother level.
It's a little easier without that groove thing getting in the way. Anyway.
Hey, Josh, thanks for being with us, man. We really appreciate you taking the time and shouting out, saying what's up, and appreciate all you're doing, man.
Well, I appreciate you letting me be on the same screen as David Hertweck. I feel like a real rock star now.
Good to see you, Josh.
Good to see you.
And David, you should know Josh was the first person so far that said you would win in a fight.
He's just being nice.
I know he doesn't. I know David doesn't live in the city, but I bet he gets down to the city often enough that he's got some good fight in him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's true, but we'll say it at least. Josh, thanks so much for being with us, bro. We appreciate you. Appreciate your time.
Oh,
Thank you very much,
guys. So thankful for you. Good to see you, David.
I'll talk to you guys.
See you too.
All right. David, welcome to the stream, bro. Appreciate you, man.
Yo, I would have stayed in quarantine for 2 extra months just to see Josh drop that plate.
Yeah, that's impressive. He really put it on the line there, especially since it was his wedding china.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He was confident.
How do you discover that ability?
That's a good question.
That he must have been quarantined at some other time in his life, because that's the only way you discover that, right?
That's a good answer. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being with us, David. If you guys don't know, David Hertweck is a senior pastor here in Clay, New York, Trinity Assembly of God. Before that, he served as the youth director for New York State and was a youth pastor before that. And him and I also host a podcast called the Multiply Podcast, talk about leadership and discipleship. And he is the author of a couple of books, which one is all about youth ministry and the other is about the Word and the Spirit. And just a longtime writer, speaker, and amateur, dabbles in cooking, right?
Yeah.
More so.
Did you know how you were going to finish that sentence when you started it?
Well, I almost wanted to say you dabble in charcuterie because I like the word, but
yeah,
you really do more than that.
Yeah, I'm learning. I got a few tricks up my sleeve. In fact, if I had to do an Olympic sport, it would probably be making a reverse sear ribeye steak. That would be my category.
So is it reverse sear when you take the sear off of a ribeye?
It's when you sear it after you cook it. But that sounds very difficult, what you just described.
Well, we appreciate being on, Dave. One of the things that we wanted to talk to you about, you're the only senior pastor that we've had so far on the stream, and we'd love to hear from you a little bit about what are some of the things that you're concerned about? We've talked a lot about kind of what are we hopeful for, what are we excited about, but I'm interested to hear from you, like, when we get back to whatever normal looks like, what are some of the concerns you have as a lead pastor for maybe the church, for Christians in general, that maybe you're like, man, I'm worried about this, I'm concerned about this, or this could be a potential pitfall?
Yeah, I think that I have a deep conviction that every season has value and worth, and it's not wasted. And that includes this season. And I think one of the mistakes that could be made is that when things normalize, whatever that looks like, and of course that's not going to happen quickly, but when that happens, one of my concerns would be that the church just runs back to what everything used to be without taking the lessons we've learned during this season and some of the things that maybe we've been forced into that actually you could argue the church should have been doing all along. And we leave these things behind. So I think there's things we've learned or we're learning in this season, and it's different for different churches and different environments. And it would be a mistake for us just to run back to business as usual without asking the question, what have we learned and uncovered in this time that God actually intends for us to bring into? So what do we adopt fully? What do we take and adapt? And then what things are we doing now that we just kind of leave behind? They were just for this season. And that takes a lot of not just strategy, but theological conviction.
That's good. Dave, I want to hand this question off to you as well. It was one that Mariah wrote, but I think your perspective actually might be really helpful with this as well. And so Josh had talked about the idea that those students who are ready, challenging them to some next level sorts of stuff. If I'm interpreting her question correctly here, for those students who don't quite yet have a relationship with Christ, or maybe a little bit leery about going public with it so quickly, being that social media is kind of that platform right now to go public with it, what kind of suggestions would you give? This could be an adult or a teenager, if you want to rewind back to your youth years, as it relates to how does a leader that's investing in their life, how would you pace with them? How would you encourage them via this kind of distance next steps? What sorts of next steps might you take with them to either to make a decision to follow Christ, or to think about, okay, encouraging them to next level relationship stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of a discipleship question. How do you help a student see Jesus and love Jesus? And so when I think of discipleship, I think of we use the definition at our local church that discipleship is moving from unbelief to belief in the gospel in every area of our lives, changing what we love and how we live. And so what I like about that definition of discipleship is that it means that discipleship is happening pre-conversion and post-conversion. It's not this dichotomy of evangelism until the moment of conversion, which sometimes can lead us to force decisions, manipulate decisions, or manufacture decisions. It realizes that conversion moment is the work of the Holy Spirit. We're not in control of it. It's the Spirit breathing life into the heart of the individual as they confess that Jesus is Lord and put their faith and trust in Him. And then they continue to move from unbelief to belief in the gospel. So I say all that to answer the question this way. I would continue to keep the gospel in front of that individual in many different ways as I can. And so I think if there's an online environment where you can be working through the gospel with that person, literally one of the four gospels, kind of studying through and sort of looking at text and answering the question, what does this reveal about Jesus, his nature, his character, who he is, and continue to point their hearts and their attention and their direction towards the person and work of Jesus, and then pray that the Holy Spirit will stir their hearts to really see his beauty and his truth. And so for me, it almost doesn't change whether the student is an unbeliever or a believer. I still want to keep pointing their hearts to the person and work of Jesus Christ, who he is and what he's done, and then trust that the Holy Spirit can use that to shape them and draw them and either save them or sanctify them.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Dave. I appreciate that. What do as you think through like your own kind of life, what do you feel like is the biggest thing God's been showing you in this time? Could be for your church, but could be for you personally. Like, what has he been revealing to you?
Yeah. I think it took me, I'm an extrovert like both of you guys. And this whole not being around people really destabilized me for a couple of weeks, and it was affecting me just not even being able to have lunch. Like the three of us, and there was other guys that would meet with us at times. We would meet for lunch almost every week. We would just try to get somebody there who would pay for us, and then we would have lunch together. Right. And like, I didn't realize how much I need that interaction just to kind of like maintain some of my sort of emotional energy. And how it was helping me. And then when it was gone, all of a sudden I was like, why don't I have any focus or energy, or why am I struggling to get things done that normally are not a struggle for me when I have actually more time to get these things done? And so one of the things that I just learned is that this season, the COVID-19 outbreak, which has brought so much anxiety and fear and worry and concern into our lives, one of the things I've learned is that there's two things that anxiety always steals from us. And I'm not talking about a clinical medical type of anxiety. I'm just talking about the sort of anxiety that that we all deal with on different levels. Anxiety, number one, it steals, at least from me, the ability to be fully present in any moment, right? Because when you're worried about things, your mind is, so we have all this extra time with kids, and I heard Heath talk about it earlier, how he's seeing it as a blessing, this time with a family. And I heard Mark say earlier, it's a challenge, and I get that, both ends of that, right? But I don't want my anxieties and my worries and my concerns about things that I ultimately have no control about, and just reveal my lack of trust in God's control, to steal my ability to be present in every moment with my girls, with my wife, with those that God has entrusted me with. But the second thing that anxiety steals from us, I think, is the ability to be thankful, or just the thought to be thankful. And so I've intentionally tried to listen to songs that make me thankful. I've tried to read scripture that makes me thankful. I've tried to give thanks on a regular basis for just normal things. And so that's something, like, personally, I've been learning a lot when it comes to ministry and church and stuff. But, for me, my heart, those are some things I've been learning.
That's good. That's really good. And yeah, one of the cool things that, if you guys didn't know, I actually live 2 blocks away from David. And so I'm surprised you didn't say this, that one of the things you're most thankful for is the fact that you still have kind of seen me almost every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually I go out, I'm exercising in the neighborhood, and I see you laying out on your front yard with your shirt off, just even though there's no sun out.
Well, I got to get whatever rays I can on this white body after a long winter. So
yeah. No, sometimes Jared's been running a lot, been running 5 miles a day. I'll give you a little shout out. And so I get on my bike and I ride on the other side of the road. It's the perfect pace for me, because he's doing a really slow jog. So I'm just basically coasting. And it has been nice to be able to see some neighbors who we already have friendships with. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, the people have learned from you on the serious stuff, but we've got some other questions that I think are more important maybe in this time. And Mark, what do you got up your sleeve over there for David to help all of our viewers get to know the real David Hertweck?
All right. This is important stuff, right? This is the stuff that people have really kind of checked into. So if you could give a non-food or this can't be a food topic, this can't be a spiritual topic. If you had to give a 40-minute presentation right now with no research, no preparation, what would it be on? It can't be something spiritual. It can't be something about food.
Boy, I mean, he pretty much, can I make a presentation about my family? Because that's the only thing else I know anything about. Wow. No, it probably would be the English Premier League and how it functions and how it works and why Liverpool are the best team this year.
Oh man. Whoa, the chat is blowing up. Whoa, people are really angry about that one, David.
And why Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player ever. Now the chat will really blow up. all those millennial LeBron supporters.
Yeah. That's true. All right. So we also know, if you didn't know about David is a big foodie. In fact, part of our podcast every time is called David's Eats, where he shares the best thing he's eaten all weekend. But what I think would be interesting to hear is, if we'll do the last meal game. Okay. So you have one final meal, and this is going to be it. The only meal that you can eat for every single meal for the rest of your life. What is it?
Oh gosh. This is really cruel, Jared. You really ruined my day.
So tough questions. This is the
no. It's actually not tough. It would be Korean food. I mean, if I had to pick an exact dish, it would probably be. I mean, how do you eat steak every meal for the rest of your life and live for more than 2 more years? So you kind of got to think that through as well. But
you're overthinking it. You really are.
All right. Okay. Korean barbecue. A Korean barbecue set up, at one of those restaurants in Flushing. That would be my meal every day for the rest of my life, and I'd be okay with it, because there's veggies there too, and yeah, and I don't need dessert. You know that about me. I don't need the sweets, and Koreans make terrible desserts in my opinion, so it's perfect for me.
Good.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, David, thanks for being on. It's always a joy to chat with you. And if people are looking to get their hands on your books, what's the best place? Is Amazon the best place to go to find those, or My Healthy Church?
Probably Ollie's. Have you heard of that?
No.
Just kidding. Yeah. Good Friends, Big Events, matching T-shirts, and The Word and the Spirit are both on Amazon still, and I'm sure the AG still has them, and I think Jared has about 24 of them. So there's some options there.
No, not anymore. They have all sold like hotcakes.
Oh wow, hotcakes. Yeah, Amazon. They're on Amazon.
Yeah. If you, in all seriousness, I know you're kind of knocking your own books there, but if I think your book is one of the best on youth ministry, on the culture of youth ministry and how to create a gospel-centered youth ministry. And then the Word of the Spirit is the same as far as how to help students engage the Word and think about the Holy Spirit. So if you've not read those, it would definitely be worth your time as well. So Mark, any last words for your friend and spiritual father, David?
Hey man, I hope to see you face to face here within the next couple of weeks or as soon as possible, man. Miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too, man. It's good to see you.
All right. Thanks, David. Appreciate you, man.
See you guys.
See you later. Well, Mark, that was fun.
That was fast. Those 10 minutes time slots. We got to make longer time slots next time.
Yeah. Hey, if you guys enjoyed the live stream, this is our first time doing it. Or, we weren't quite sure like to do this or just record, but we thought it'd be fun to do something live where we could interact and answer some questions and stuff like that. So if this is something you guys enjoyed, let us know. Leave a comment, shoot a like there, and it may be something we end up doing every week or bi-weekly. Our hope is to have fun and have great content, but also one of the things, Mark, you and I talked about is creating something where people could actually get to know some of these leaders a little bit better in kind of a fun way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks everybody for tuning in, for watching. If you're not watching the live version and you're watching this in video form afterwards, we're happy you did as well. And hopefully you guys are blessed, staying safe during this time, and look forward to connecting soon.
Yep.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, man. See you guys later.